4 days after an egg has been fertilized. It develops into a ball of cells called a blastocyst. Is that a Pokemon? Blastocyst? Hello and welcome to TBDK, Too Busy, Didn't Know, here on the Go Joe Show with me, Joe. This is both a podcast and a video, so if you want to check it out on YouTube, you can head over to my channel, Go Joe Show, or if you're listening to it on audio through a podcast, welcome. This is the show where I take the best and biggest news around business, science, technology, and startups. We review it, I go over it, I give my opinion, and we all learn something to become the most exciting person that we know. You're definitely going to learn something you didn't know before, because I know it. Everyone listening to this is so busy. My life is also very busy. That's why I do this show, so I can learn something, you can learn something, and we can grow together. And today we got 8 things from the past week that are mind-blowing, awesome, radical stories. Things like we got a volcano fly through. If you're listening, maybe it won't be very exciting, but we're going to fly through an active volcano from a drone. There's an eagle shark. That's right, an eagle shark. What it is, keep listening and find out. A tiny car that outsells the Tesla. Ooh, beef. Shade thrown. Invisible security. You can now have a locking mechanism that's completely invisible. It's very cool. I've already looked at it. Justin Long from the Mac versus PC commercials now throwing shade at Apple. We'll watch some of those videos. 2 stories back to back. One about artificial uteruses growing mice. So yes, we take a mouse embryo, and we grow it inside of an artificial uterus, and then we also take human skin cells and turn them into an embryo. That shit's wacky. We'll get to it. It's going to be crazy. Yes, that means Attack of the Clones coming up. And number 1, folding nano machines. These scientists built these little tiny nano machines that can fold themselves into pretty much origami shapes. What can they do? We'll find out. All that and more on today's Too Busy, Didn't Know. Thanks again for joining my show. I really appreciate it. If you like this content, it comes out weekly on Wednesdays. You can subscribe either through your podcast platform or wherever you're listening, or you can also subscribe on YouTube. Head on over to Go Joe Show on YouTube and find my show. You'll also find a bunch of other content that I put out, but that's neither here nor there. Today, we're talking about all these awesome stories that I brought up at the top of the show. So welcome again. Also, if you want to sponsor me, feel free to reach out. Hi, joeshow@gmail.com. Look forward to growing this channel with you. This is a visual show, as I mentioned, on YouTube. Behind me, we've got this amazing, what looks like a sunrise in Panama, overlooking just lush green mountains going on as far as the eye can see. Not very tall mountains, more like hills with a bunch of trees on them, and just this beautiful pastel and orange skyline. I'm sure that you can paint it in your mind, but it's absolutely gorgeous if you want to check it out on the video component. Let's get to the first story, though, and we're going to leave Panama for, we believe this is over in, like, Finland or Switzerland. A volcano is currently exploding, and some guy is there, some adventurer with a drone, and he did a flyby of this volcano erupting. So let's check it out. Let's look at his footage over at this, Finland's Fagradalsfjall volcano. Sounds very Thor-esque. Fagradalsfjall. It's definitely somebody Thor has fought at one point. This guy, I don't know what his name is, but in the capital of Reykjavik, this volcano began erupting last Friday. Let's look at this first video. You can probably hear it. Flying over this molten lava. It's all black except this very orange winding path of lava. Ooh. And then he flies right over it. Looks like the drone almost gets hit by like a piece of molten debris. That's pretty rad. I mean, not very often do you get to see a volcano exploding or a drone flying over it. Here's another video. This is dubstep music he's got. This epic dubs. Yep, flying around from the back this time. Ooh, and he slows down the footage just as he's going over it. The molten rocks everywhere. He definitely got hit by some molten rocks. He says lava surfing. If you want to look it up, you can head over to YouTube or check my show notes, and I'll try to link it in there for you guys. And then also we can see here, so many hikers and tourists are out sitting in front of the volcano just watching it erupt. That's super ballsy to go out and sit in front of an active volcano. I mean, in my mind, I imagine volcanoes are like these really violent things with explosions everywhere, molten lava, orange, black, all melding together. But yeah, these people are just chilling. It's just a bunch of people sitting down watching the volcano, and from the footage, the lava is moving very slowly. I always imagine it, you imagine it so violent in like the movies and stuff, and it looks very chill and very cool to be watching the volcano. Man, I'd love to go watch a volcano. I bet you it smells crazy, like burning and probably sulfur and a bunch of other stuff all at the same time. I heard someone guessing that the next Fast and the Furious, they're going to be racing around in an exploding volcano. It totally seems like something they would do for that. So if you want to check it out, like I said, the exploding volcano is in the show notes or on the YouTube. You just saw it. Number 7, the great eagle shark. Yes, a prehistoric eagle shark combines the traits of a shark and a manta ray. I got a picture of it on the screen, and if you want to imagine it or you can't see it right now, I'll describe it to you. It looks like a shark without a fin on top. So there's no dorsal fin, there's no top fin. It's just like a tube, like a shark tube with gills. It's brown, and then it has these fins that look like wings on the side, and it looks really creepy and long, almost like, I guess you could imagine like a really long bird beak, but it's a wing on the side of it. So it's a brown tube shark without a fin on top, and these, long, spindly, creepy arms. Dude, if this thing was walking upright, like if this was a shark walking around upright and looking at you in the face, it would look like a nightmare creature. It looks like a nightmare creature, something that I would see in the Silent Hills. Yeah, so this is the eagle shark, combining the best of eagles and sharks to just look like a really creepy manta ray. They found this fossil. I don't know where it's at. I think it's somewhere in South America. Yeah, Mexico, actually. It was in Mexico. 93 million year old remains of the Aquilo lamina. It's this creature. Had a torpedo-shaped body and a tail with a longer upper lobe, but like a ray, its pectoral fins took the form of wing-like appendages of a nightmare creature. It is 5 feet long and had a 6-foot wingspan. That thing could definitely take on John Jones in the ring with a 6-foot wingspan. Probably also bite his ear off. Crazy eagle shark. So that's the eagle shark. Not what I imagined. I thought maybe it was going to be this prehistoric creature that was actually an eagle with a shark head, and it was flying around terrorizing dinosaurs. Guess that's not what it is. It's just this torpedo shark that looks like a Silent Hills monster. That's the eagle shark. Again, if you want to see a picture of it, you can head over to the YouTube channel. Number 6, we got tiny car outsells the Tesla. This tiny car beat the Tesla Model 3 as the best-selling electric vehicle in the world for January and February. Now, this is a very clickbaity headline because I feel like it's not very hard to outsell the Tesla, as they have production problems. They've had production problems almost the entire run of the company. And if this is a Chinese manufacturer making this very, very tiny looking car that's totally electric in a market that has like whatever 4 times the population of the United States or larger, I actually don't know what the population difference is, but I think it's 3 to 4 times larger, then of course it's going to outsell the Tesla. Like, what a silly headline. But yeah, it looks like a smart car, or like a mini, it looks like a smart car, just like a slightly fatter version of a smart car out of China, outselling the Tesla Model 3. More than 36,000 of the tiny cars sold in January compared to about 21,500 Model S's. The Hongguang sold just over 20,000 units last month compared to just under 13,000 Tesla S3s. So it keeps beating it by about 10,000 units. The tiny vehicle is made between a joint partnership of China's state-owned SIAC Motors, blah, 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 and U.S. car maker General Motors. It's locally referred to simply as Wuling. The Hongguang Mini EV sells in China for only 2,800 yuan, or about 4,500 US dollars. Actually, that's pretty nice. It claims to get 170 kilometers, roughly 106 miles per charge. It can reach top speed of 100 kilometers per hour, or 62 miles per hour. And it weighs about, weighing in at 1,500 pounds. In other words, it's tall but skinny. Unlike me, who's short but skinny. So yeah, that's the car that's outselling the Teslas. Pretty much a Mini Cooper. Good job, China. But I'm still unimpressed. Very unimpressed. Next thing that we got here is very cool, and I don't think I mentioned it at the top of the show, but I wanted to mention it because it's awesome. Or maybe I should save this one for the end. It has to do with augmented reality, one of my favorite topics. I'm going to save it to the end. We're going to push that to the end and move on to the next one I have on my sheet here. Number 5, invisible security. Now this is pretty rad. If you're looking at the YouTube, you can see it, but if you're listening, it's a picture of a safe, or it looks like a locked door or a safe. And at the top it says enter password, and you can see somebody entering the password. And over on the side where the hinge is, there's a hand touching the hinge. It looks like a female hand touching the hinge. And it seems like these researchers over in Switzerland have made this transparent polymer film that you can attach onto any surface. And I just started the video, so that's what that sound was. And it has invisible buttons on it, so it looks like a rectangle, just clear plastic strip. You would put it on the side of the door or somewhere next to a door or whatever you're locking, wherever you want to place it, and then only the people that know it's there and the correct sequence to touch it can get in. So in the video that's playing behind me, they're demonstrating this thing. You can see it's a locked door. This is just a test door, and they have put the hinge or the plastic over one of the hinges, and the lady taps the top once, and then taps the bottom, and then the top, and then the bottom again, pretty much saying 1414, and then the door unlocks. It receives the signal. And if you're looking at it, yeah, the hinge does look a little different. It looks slightly darker than the other hinge. But if you didn't know it was there and there was weathering on it, you probably wouldn't notice it at all. Or if it wasn't even on the hinge, but just on, I don't know, like a rocky surface or something, there's probably no way that you would notice it unless you're really looking for it. And it makes me think of like secret passages in buildings or in your house. You could just put this on the wall randomly. You go boop, 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 and then the door opens. Or like, I don't know, if you're just like, you could make a treasure hunt in real life where you could put this thing somewhere, and then only if the person knows that it's there at the right place, at the right time, they can come in and just tap the sequence in, and like the alleyway opens up or something. Like it's totally rad. Other than locks and stuff, I don't really know what it could be applied to. I guess maybe your phone. You could put a clear plastic thing on your phone, and only you know where it is on your phone and the correct sequence to press it in. It would make it even harder to get into phones probably, because I mean, we know where the fingerprint sensor is. It's very clear. So if you could just hide a transparent thing on the back of your phone and only you know how to draw the special code on it, that would unlock your phone. But other than those two use cases, I really can't think of anything. If you can think of something, let us know in the comments. But yeah, if you had an invisible door locking mechanism where only you knew what it was, what would you use it for? I'm very curious what you guys would use an invisible lock for. It's like some Harry Potter shit. You just touch the wall, wipe your hand along the wall, and the door opens. So cool. So we got invisible keyholes, new security thing. Pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. And then let's get over to the Justin Long Intel ad. So you may remember back in the day, they had these ads of Mac versus PC, where there was two now famous people in the ads. There was Justin Long, and there was not Paul F. Tompkins. There was John Hodgman, who went on to start a podcast called Judge John Hodgman, and Justin Long went on to star in movies. If you don't know who Justin Long is, look him up. Here is an example commercial that they did back in like 20 something, maybe the early 2000s. Justin Long plays the Mac, so you'll hear his voice first, and then John Hodgman plays the PC. Just as an example, this is what it sounded like.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC. We've got a little network going here, and it was very easy to set up.
We speak each other's language.
We share our internet connection. There are all sorts of things we do together. Who's this now?
Oh, this is that new digital camera from Japan. Just came out.
Hajimemashite.
はじめまして。
Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Wait. You speak her language?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everything just kind of works with a Mac. Arigato.
ねえねえねえ、誰
そうそう
オタクっぽくない？
So?
Buongiorno. Hello.
So they made a series of these commercials kind of mocking the PC and saying that just the Mac was better, superior, and easier to use, which actually was a very successful ad campaign and is classic to this day. But now Intel has hired Justin Long to come in and do the exact opposite. He's now making fun of the Mac instead of representing the Mac, and here is just an example of one of these commercials.
Hello, I'm Justin. Just a real person doing a real comparison between Mac and PC. Come on.
I'm just
Okay,
Justin.
PC.
Just a real
Oh, cool.
person.
This whole thing's a
Pretty
touch
funny.
screen. And there's
He's on
another
a
one
PC
too.
now.
Wow.
With
All
the
right,
touchscreen.
and now for Mac.
Let's see. Oh, and you've got a little bar here. Little
Using
baby
the touch
one.
bar.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, where's the mute button?
Here's what I found on how to cook mutton.
Oh no, I don't want to cook mutton.
It is mutton.
Pretty good
Justin,
mocking
just
mocking Apple now. Let's look at another one here.
So with the PC, I can plug in up to
Or
3
listen.
monitors at the same time, but with Mac, I can plug in 1. Just 3, 1. Okay. Yeah. Well, one's better than none.
He was standing next to two PCs, and in this one he's not on a white background. In the classic one, they're just on a white background. Now he's like in a room. It starts on a white background when he says, "Hey, I'm Justin, just a human," and then he goes into like a nice room. And this one got me, this PC gaming one right here.
Hello, I'm Justin. Just a real person doing a real comparison between Mac and PC. Come on. Oh, so you're a PC gamer?
Sup?
Sup with you? You're doing all this gaming on a laptop then?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. And do we have a Mac gamer?
No one really games on a Mac.
Oh, sick burn. No one really games on Mac. So they made about 5 of these. If you want to check them out, I'll definitely link below. I think it's great marketing. I love beef marketing. This is a good example of beef marketing, just like the last one was, where you kind of start beef. The goal is to kind of punch upward. You don't really want to punch down, because punching down to a company that's smaller than you or not as talented as you, I don't know, it's not as cool as if you're like a bigger company taking shots at another really strong competitor. And so Intel taking shots at Mac, pretty funny, and really highlighting some things about Mac that have gotten kind of annoying and out of control. In another one, he picks up the PC and bends it backwards and it becomes a tablet, and he takes out the stylus on the PC, and then on the Mac he tries to bend it, and of course it doesn't bend because MacBooks don't bend, and so they hand him an iPad and he's like, oh, I guess now it's a tablet. I have a tablet too. And they hand him a keyboard attachment, and he's like, oh, and a keyboard attachment, cool. And then they hand him a dongle, and then that's where the commercial ends. He's like, a dongle? It's pretty funny, because Mac, now you just got to keep buying more stuff, and they keep upselling you on all this crap. And I guess Windows PCs are getting more and more integrated with all kinds of the features in one compact thing. And also, speaking of that, totally off side note, Samsung is apparently developing a dual foldable phone. So right now they have foldable phones that can fold hot dog and like a hamburger bun, and the screen actually bends. It's funny how we moved away from these flip phones that I had when I was a kid, and now we're like reintegrating them. When the Razor came out, I don't even know if you remember that, but Razor was this foldable phone that was all the rage back in the day, and now we're making foldable phones again. I don't know why we're doing it. Honestly, this slab is fine for me. I don't need it to fold. The hot dog one's a little bit nicer because it's thinner, and then it opens up into a bigger screen. But then it's becoming a tablet at that point. And that's all well and good, but really what I'm excited for are like AR glasses and stuff. I don't really need these foldable phones. For me, it's just a weird gimmick. So shout out to Justin Long for that great beef marketing that he's now doing with Intel. Number 3 and number 2. This is cool. This is really cool. We're talking science now. Scientists grew a mouse embryo in an artificial uterus. Scientists have managed to grow the embryo of a mammal outside of the womb for the very first time. If you're looking at it, there is a visual here on the screen. It's just like a container with a little mouse in it. It has gel and then like an embryo that looks like a transparent tiny tadpole egg. And apparently it's a mouse embryo. And so what they did is they took a fertilized egg out of a female mouse and they put it in this kind of machine that they built. And they were able to sustain the embryo for, I believe, 11 days of growth. Nope, 11 days. And it takes 20 days for the mouse to gestate to the point where it can survive outside the room. So the womb, not room, the warm room that it's in called the womb. I believe that means after 20 days they give birth. And so this is, pretty incredible that they're able to now incubate mammalian babies outside of the womb, because previously we haven't really been able to do that. I don't think we have the technology to grow it completely from fertilized egg into live creature for humans or anything outside of the womb. And kind of, I guess, where the problem is around 11 days of growth, the embryo starts to need some sort of blood flow that comes in from the mother usually. And so they don't have the technology to integrate this blood flow into the embryo, and that's why they lose it. It's a very interesting development, because one thing that they don't really know a lot about is what happens in the first couple months of development inside the womb. They haven't really had a good way to study it. And so this will actually lead to pretty interesting ways to study what happens in the development of a mammal before it becomes a thing, a living, breathing thing. It's pretty cool. If you want to see it, like I said, I've been linking you all along. These mouse embryos being incubated outside of the womb. Is it incubated or is it something else? Not really sure. But piggybacking off of that, scientists have now used human skin, just human skin, along with stem cells to create what is pretty much the beginning of a human embryo. We all know how human production works. Sperm meets egg, a fertilized egg kicks off its journey, transforms into a human embryo, and then becomes a fetus and ultimately a baby. But what if boy meets girl isn't the only way? Last week, 2 studies in Nature torpedoed the classic narrative on the beginning of life. 2 independent teams coaxed ordinary skin cells pulled off of someone's neck probably, into a living cluster that resembled a fertilized human egg and the very first stages of a developing human embryo. To be clear, the teams did not engineer an artificial embryo that could develop into a viable baby yet. Rather, they replicated what happens during the first 4 days after an egg has been fertilized. It develops into a ball of cells called a blastocyst. Is that a Pokemon? Blastocyst? I choose you, Blastocyst! Pretty sure that's a Pokemon. Blastocyst, the first station towards a fully formed baby or Pokemon that shoots water cannons out of its back, the Blastocyst. They couldn't get beyond the Blastocyst because of reasons, but this is the first time this has been done. Within just 10 days inside of a Jello-like incubator, the reverse engineered cells showed traits astonishingly similar to their natural counterparts. Pretty rad. How did they do it though? I believe this guy's going to explain it. Let's see what
study
Professor Jose
the
says.
early steps of human development. This is important because it will allow us to study the early days of human development without using human embryos.
As I mentioned.
And it will allow us to study many cases of infertility, and for example, why the many miscarriages happen in the first 2 weeks of pregnancy, why or how many genetic diseases affect these early steps of development, or even how different toxins that we may be exposed can affect the very early steps of human development.
That's actually really important because, like I mentioned before, we don't have a lot of data around this. So if we have these little human-like embryos, blastocysts, that we can test things on, like he said, like toxins, maybe we can blast it with music or with radiation waves or whatever that potentially a mother could ingest, and see what actually happens to the baby and see if it develops, I don't know, the genes or genetic codes for like Down syndrome, for example. That would be super helpful. So this is actually really important research on these blastocysts and how they did it. The 2 studies represent the first time the scientists have been able to make blastocyst-like structures from human cells. He started with a previously published recipe. Here, skin cells are gently scraped off and bathed in a chemical soup that returns them to a stem cell-like state, meaning that they regain the ability to make other types of cells. So they give them a bath in some sort of chemical soup, and then they revert back to stem cells. And stem cells have the ability to grow into any other type of cell, whether it's a skin cell or a hair follicle, a nose, a kidney, a heart, whatever it is, it can grow into a multitude of different things. From there, the pseudo-stem cells, called iPSCs, are bathed, they take another bath, in a nutritious liquid in a petri dish. The team's spark of insight came when they realized that after 3 weeks, the cells began to branch out into a potpourri. A potpourri? A potpourri? Oh, so it smelled. So that's what they're telling us, is that they branched out and smelled incredible, like very floral, a potpourri of 3 different types of cells found in early human embryos, something rarely seen before. After that, they were inspired. They transferred these cells into a 3D jello-like culture system for support, and then strangely, the cells began to self-assemble with a mind of their own. What was completely surprising is when you put them together, they self-organize. These cells assemble, and they found that these assembled cells resemble early embryo-like structures, what they dubbed blastoids. So we got blastocysts and then we got blastoids. Definitely 2 different Pokemon, for sure. The blastocyst evolves into an blastoid. And the final one is the blastotite. It's very strong, a lot of muscles, can shoot water. Definitely out of its mouth. It's got some fins. The blastotite. So yeah, these blastoids in a sense look like a normal blastocyst, but they're missing some very important other bits, so they don't think that they can actually evolve or I guess grow into a human embryo. Right now, I'm sure that's somebody else will take this and be inspired and do something else to make it into a human embryo that can grow. So we've got mice embryos that are being grown outside of the womb. And now we've got the blastoids that can turn into embryos, and then maybe we can combine the 2 technologies, and then we actually can grow a human embryo outside of the womb just from skin cells scraped off of somebody. And at that point, are we cloning? Is that what we're doing? Are we just cloning right now? If we could actually clone stuff, if we can scrape off skin cells, nurse them with some soup, and turn them into an embryo, we can make a baby version of yourself. And if we somehow remove all consciousness from it and just make it into a vessel to grow organs, damn, Fountain of youth. Now you can have your own heart, your own kidney, your own eyeballs, your own skin grown in a lab somewhere for a couple years. And then, you know, when you get old and you need to revert back to it, maybe even you could transfer your consciousness back into yourself, up from a clone of yourself, or get like a transplant of an organ that's failing and get the one that is like a 7-year-old version of it. Well, maybe not a 7-year-old, but like a developed teenage 26-year-old version of it. Said teenager, 26, meant the developed version. I think we don't finish developing until we're like 27. So 27-year-old version of it, put it back in you when you're 90, and then boom, youth, baby. Fountain of youth. It's coming quicker than we realize it. I keep saying it. It's one of the most exciting places right now, I think, to be investing in is health. And this sort of like using CRISPR and jello molds and human embryos and nanotechnology to get in our bodies and deliver medicine. Oh man, are we gonna do some cool shit here in the next decade. Professor Jose Polo, get it with the eye blastoid. I'm gonna go outside after this, power up Pokemon Go, and I'm gonna catch myself a Blastocyst. Thanks, Jose. You guys are doing good work. Growing clones. Pretty soon we're actually gonna have, what's that movie? Altered Carbon. Where we're just like having our consciousness in a disc and, I almost said dick. Having our consciousness in our dick. It's pretty much how dudes operate anyways, right? It's how men operate. Having our consciousness in discs that we can put into these, you know, other bodies that we grow in a lab. Dude, we're living in a crazy time. A crazy time. Crazy time. In the last story, these folding nano machines, these self-folding nano machines, you can see here. I'm just gonna play the video and they'll talk about it. It's
We
the
essentially
world's smallest
demonstrate that we can
origami
fold
bird.
the world's smallest self-folding origami bird with shape memory, so it can hold its shape.
So they have a
indefinitely.
mock-up of
and
what
this really kind of
thing looks
illustrates
like
the
on the
vision
screen.
that we have going forward for this micro-robotics work. The kinds of complicated shapes that we're going to be able to actuate, hold, and then work around in order to get the functions that we're interested in for our
They just
microscopic robots.
show the folding
It's
in
an
the
enormous
background.
engineering challenge to figure out
crazy.
how to make something like that have the kind of functionalities we want. One thing that's quite remarkable is that the material out of we make these actuators, these little tiny layers,
This is
are only
crazy.
about 30 atoms thick or so. They're just literally nanoscopic in size, where you could count the number of atoms from the top and the bottom, compared to a sheet of paper, which might be 100,000 atoms thick.
At this small scale, it's not like a traditional mechanical engineering, but all the chemistry, material science, and the mechanical engineering all mixed together. So the biggest challenge is to figure out what's the chemical reaction at the surface of this nanometer thin film, and to make a connection between this change of chemical composition and their mechanical behavior.
Okay, so first off, this guy that was just talking looked so confused when they put the camera on him and like frightened that they had to cut away to like all this science picture jargon stuff. And I don't really think it totally related to what he was saying. I think they were just like, he looks frightened like a deer in the headlights. We got to cut away from him. But on the screen right now, what you just saw, they have these micro machines, and what it looks like is a square piece of paper with the middle cut out, and it's able to be bent up. So you can bend it up, and then the paper kind of folds with it, and you would bend up into like what looks like almost like a table in the middle of it, and then you can bend it back down. That's the best way that I can describe what I'm looking at. And you can actually see on the bottom the nanoparticle version of the model that they built. So they made a model of it, a 3D model, and they built the nanoparticle version. And when you're looking at it, we're actually looking from the bottom, and so the thing goes up and it becomes blurry, and that's what you're seeing when it goes up, is that it's lifting up and going into the background, so it becomes blurry. If you want to check it out, took me a second to realize what was going on, but that's what's happening, is that we're seeing it from the bottom and it's folding itself up, and that's why it gets all blurry. This is very, very cool. These are very tiny. It says it's 20 like nanometers, so very tiny machines.
Why do we want to build such functional robots at this scale?
Yeah, why do we want to?
Well, think of all the things that robots do for us at the macro scale. Roombas sweep our floors.
For an
Factory
example.
robots build our cars and other machines. Robots perform surgeries and explore distant planets. Now imagine a world where we create robots with a similar degree of functionality at the micro scale.
Yeah, that is incredible, dude. That is fucking incredible. If we can build robots that can do stuff at the micro scale, that can go in our body, like I mentioned, and do stuff, or just, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff like disassembling. I'm gonna say disassembling something at an atomic level. I don't think these machines can do that. These are very simple machines that just go up and down at the moment, or unfold and then fold back down. I guess you could screw with that motion. If you go up and down, that's kind of like a screwing motion or a pumping motion. So you could make a pump. Actually, you could make a little machine if you combine them all together. One goes up and down, one pumps, one turns. That's what a machine is. It's just a collection of stuff strung together, gears and pulleys and stuff. So yeah, actually, this is like the start of building robotic machines. These are like the building blocks that they're doing right now to make something a little bit bigger at the micro scale. Still very small, but a little bit bigger. And yeah, they're right. I mean, it reminds me that we're doing all of this like space exploration. Let's send people to Mars. Let's go do this. Let's go do that off planet. Let's move, whatever. And we're not like exploring the oceans and seeing what we still have on this planet, because there's probably untold, bountiful, awesome stuff in the ocean that can help us medically and with all sorts of, whatever, mimicking biomimicry. And when we copy nature with technology. And then also at the nano scale, we haven't really explored the very small microverse, the world of Ant-Man, the microverse. We haven't really explored, and so these machines could actually help us explore the microverse and give us some ability to control the microverse as well, because we clearly can't shrink ourselves down like Ant-Man, unfortunately, even though that's the next Ant-Man 3 microverse. Should be pretty cool. Maybe we'll see some of these, science things pop up in the movie. Building really tiny machines, though, very cool. It's going to enable us to do some really cool stuff. Let's finish out this little explanation here.
Could we have a micro factory that transforms the way we make things and develop surgical robotic instruments that can perform more delicate surgeries on length scales smaller by a factor of 10 compared to what we can currently do? What sort of worlds will we be able to investigate and explore when we can now interact with biology on the scale of cellular organisms?
Yeah, that is very cool to think about. I mean, if you just imagine it, so there's, like I said, that's paper with like a table, and if you had something under the table, like I don't know, like a bacteria, like a phage or something that's carrying some sort of chemotherapy or medicine, you could have this little machine go somewhere and wherever it needs to be, and then close the table, so push it back down so it squeezes it out and then inserts it into, the exact place it needs to go in your body, the tumor, to kill it from the inside or whatever it is. So it's very cool stuff, and if you use your imagination, you can come up with all sorts of cool uses for this nano technology. So if you want to see all that stuff, check out the YouTube version of the show. Otherwise, I hope it was pretty cool listening to it. That's all I had on my plate to discuss. That was the top, most exciting things from this week that I liked that I wanted to share with you. But I have two extra ones. One of them is the game Fortnite. If you're not familiar with it, it's a first-person shooter from a game company called Epic Games. Pretty much what happens in the game is you parachute in with 100 other people onto this island, and then you all shoot each other, and there's only one winner. They get the victory royale. Congratulations, you win, and then you just do it over and over again. It's a pretty fun game. I play it with a good friend of mine. Honestly, it got the reputation of being for kids, but I enjoy playing it. Eat me, I don't really care. And one of the reasons that I like playing Fortnite is they do really interesting things with the map. So I came into Fortnite rather late. I think like season 4 is when I came in, and now we're on season 6. So I've been playing for only a couple months, to be honest, or maybe a year. But one thing that I noticed is that right when we dropped into the game around season 4, we must have come in near the end of the season. They had this event that was happening. First, there was this Travis Scott event where they held a live concert. experience inside of Fortnite. Pretty much it was a 10-minute show that Travis Scott put together with the creators of the game, where you could log in. It was a one-time event. It was only happening that day. You would watch it. It was this big experience. You got to fly around. It was interactive and do stuff. And then we missed that one, but a couple days later they had the season finale. And on the season finale, they also have an event. And what happens in that event is actually a continuation of the storyline of Fortnite. So Fortnite has a story told kind of throughout the season, and as the season goes on, they do these little events, smaller in scale than the one that I'm referring to at the end of the season, which is like a 20-minute interactive thing. They'll do these mini events throughout the season where they introduce new characters that you can unlock, or new weapons, or the map changes in some way. So during the holiday time, they covered it with snow. They had new planes that you could fly around in this past holiday, and they changed the map. And so they do this at a regular pace every end of the season. They do a big event and the map totally changes. They add on to the story and they continue the story. It's this crazy interactive story, and I thought that was really cool. And I don't believe that Call of Duty does this. They don't have this like connected storyline that keeps on happening. It's a living, breathing story that's constantly having new things added to it. And I don't really know of any other medium that can do that type of storytelling. I mean, I guess the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point, but any medium that can really do that type of storytelling and have, just this like ongoing event-based thing is very cool. And they also started crossing over with like Marvel and Star Wars and Batman and DC Comics and Predator movies and like all sorts of pop culture stuff, and they integrate it into the game. It's very unique. It's very cool. I liked it a lot. No other game really has that storytelling narrative, the crossover with pop culture, and just the like light humor and fun that you can pop in and play anytime with a friend. So I just wanted to talk about that for a minute because I think it's very cool. And they keep saying that it's like environmental storytelling and a new way of interacting and a new medium. And I believe that's very true. And I'm very curious where they're going to take it and what they're going to do as we get into the metaverse stuff. I'm not going to get into the metaverse now, but I want to give props to Fortnite for doing something really cool. If you haven't played it, you can check it out. That's Fortnite from Epic Games. It's free to play too. So if you don't want to pay anything, you can just buy or you can just download it, hop in and start playing completely free. You won't get any of the cool stuff, but you can play it. And the last thing, speaking of the metaverse, is this band from Facebook. It's this band that you put on your wrist that lets you interact with augmented reality, and it's very cool. And they've been trying to do hand tracking for a long time using either cameras on the glasses themselves or external cameras that are looking at you, or even like gloves. But this one is just kind of a bracelet. It's this cool looking bracelet, almost looks like this gauntlet bracelet. I feel like I've seen women wearing stuff like this anyways, and it can read your movements of your hand. So it's just attached to your hand, slightly below your wrist, kind of on your forearm, and you can open your wrist, close it. You can put one finger out, two fingers out, middle finger out, and it can actually read what's going on with your hand, and it is moving a 3D hand that you could see on screen. So it's mimicking exactly what your hand is doing in 3D with a 3D hand. And that is very hard. And what it's doing is sensing the muscles and the nerve firings and all sorts of stuff happening in your forearm to know what you're doing with your hand. And they've got it down to a pretty exact science here. And there's videos behind me playing right now on the video version where you can see this. There's like a Jenga thing. Some guys has the band on. He's picking up a 3D Jenga piece, and he's touching the different fingers together, and each time he touches a finger together, it does a different thing. So thumb to index finger rotates it one way, middle finger to thumb rotates it another way. Opening his hand pushes it away, closing his hand brings it forward, and it can sense all this stuff. So he's actually interacting with this 3D object with gesture control, with just this cool band on, this cool black electronic band. And the reason why I'm excited about this is because as we get neural interfaces, so ones that go on top of our head or augmented reality stuff, it's going to be very important to do this type of hand tracking in order for us to interact with something that doesn't really have a touch screen or any other real way to interact with it. And this is going to really change the game here. And I hate that it's coming out of Facebook, but this is very cool. I urge you to check out these videos on when you have a moment if you're not watching it. Now they're showing a typing demonstration. So it's just a guy with two of the bands on, and he's just tapping a wooden desk and typing like he would be on a keyboard. But there's no keyboard in front of him, just a blank wooden desk and these armbands on. So he has a keyboard that's just missing. It's not there, and it's being sensed with these armbands. Oh man, is that so cool. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. So good, because I hate typing on my phone. My fingers are fat or something, and it just doesn't work out. We got one more video here of this Facebook thing.
With AR devices,
it has some sound, so hold on, let me go forward here so you can see what exactly they're trying to do. Okay, yeah. So
but
here is someone sitting in a chair, and they're using gesture control to control.
You're able to move that cursor
something
left,
in front of them.
Because you and a machine agreed which neurons mean left and which neurons mean right. You're in this constant conversation with the machine.
This new form of control, it requires us to...
Yeah, so this girl is sitting in a chair, and in front of her, if she had like glasses on, she would see like screens, and she can flick through them using her thumb, rubbing it over her other finger, back and forth and left and right, like a joystick. And she's switching the screens. This is clearly a concept, but it's cool as shit to think about.
To build an interface that adapts to you and your environment.
Everything starts with a click.
The intelligent click is the ability to do these highly contextual actions in a very low friction manner.
It's kind of the purest form of a superpower. You are in control, but the system is exactly inferring the right thing for you to control. All you have to do to operate it is just click.
So for example, if I'm cooking and I'm kind of pulling some noodles out of a box.
The interface could ask me, would you like to start boiling the water? The risk can...
Yep, so she's clicking, or whoever it is clicking their thumb and forefinger and middle finger all together to do like a little click. And that is how you interact with something or click on something.
Also be a spot where the technology is communicating back to the user.
The haptics, the sensation of touch around us, this is part of how we learn and use motor control. It's critical to AR and XR.
We wondered, as you pull back the bowstring on a bow, if we tied that not to the tension growing on people's fingers, but rather squeezing on the wrist, would it add to that experience, like you're pulling back the bowstring?
Of course
the
it would.
The answer is yes.
Hell yeah, it would. Does it even need to be asked? Hell yes, haptics always adds to anything technology-wise. Haptics is like... some phones, when you type on them, you get a little like buzz when you hit a key, like an actual buzz. That's called haptic feedback. And so what they're saying here is they wanted to integrate haptic feedback into their control system here. If anyone's ever had a Nintendo 64, you know that rumble pack added so much to the controller. As you would hit a wall or like knock into another car or whatever, it would rumble. Dude, it added such an experience. That rumble pack, you got to have the haptics. The new Sony controller, when you pull the shoulder trigger button, it gets harder as you pull it in, so you can actually like feel yourself having to use force to pull it, which is pretty cool. The games can play with that. So it's programmable. Some triggers will be harder to pull than others, or they'll use it in different ways. But haptic feedback always makes things better. So I love that they integrated it. And in the demo here, if you didn't see it, it was somebody shooting a bow and arrow. And as she's pulling the bow back, it's squeezing her forearm even tighter to let her know that she's, getting the maximum tension on the bow. This is so cool. I want to think of a way to get my hands on this and bring it to you guys here on the channel because I love this. It's where the future's headed. I keep telling people that this is going to blow up and this is going to blow our minds and this is the next big thing. It's like cell phones all over again. Get on it now because it's about to explode. And then from there, it's going to go even bigger. I mean, we're going to build apps on top of this. Start thinking about this now. Please, if there's one thing I can encourage you to do is think about this now and start learning how to interface with this stuff and building apps for this in mind because it's coming. There's no stopping it. The genie is out of the bottle. We're going full force towards this. That's been today's Too Busy Didn't Know. It was a little longer than I wanted it to be because I had a lot to say, but I hope you enjoyed your time with me here on the Go Go Joe Show, TBDK. Come back every Wednesday to hear more about the things that maybe you didn't hear about in the past week. I'll give you the top ones between 7 and 10 items. If you like my show, hit that subscribe button, mash the bell to get a notification every time I upload a new video. And the biggest compliment you can give me is sending me along to a friend. But until next time, I hope you learned something cool because you know it. I love you.